Hello, everyone, and welcome Lauren K. Denton to the Lowcountry Book Club. We are so happy to have you today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Just for everyone in the group who may not be familiar with Lauren, I just wanted to do a brief introduction. She is the USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and Amazon Charts bestselling author of 5 novels, including this month's Book of the Month selection, The Summer House. Publishers Weekly gave The Summer House. Oh, I can speak. Publishers Weekly gave The Summer House a starred review. In addition to her fiction, Lauren writes a monthly newspaper column about life, faith, and how funny and hard it is to be a parent. She lives with her family in Homewood near Birmingham, Alabama. So you live with your family near Birmingham, and you're originally from Mobile, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you went to Auburn University?
I did.
The home of those other Tigers.
I know. It's always really sticky to say that I went to Auburn, depending on the situation. I never know what kind of response that's going to get.
Well, we're not like, rabid football fans, most of us. So anyway, I just think it's funny because, I had to look it up because I wasn't sure who the mascot was. And I'm like, wait a minute, Clemson is the Tigers.
There's
How come
some other
the Tigers? Yeah, there's other Tigers. Okay, so you're an Alabama girl through and through.
Yes, that's right.
My Southern sister. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, you too.
Okay, so let's talk about the setting for The Summer House. Okay. Elizabeth Horan wanted to know, as do I, if the community of Bon Secours is a real place or perhaps based on a real place.
Yes, actually, Bon Secours is real. Bon Secours Bay is kind of tucked over on the side of Mobile Bay. And the area that I wrote it about, I changed some of the names just because it's easier for me to fictionalize a place if I don't give it the exact name. But Bon Secours is real. Bon Secours River in the bay is real. And the island that Safe Harbor Village sits on is really called Plash Island. And as I've been talking to people about this book, I have had several people come back and say, I know exactly, like my grandparents had a house on that island, or, I know right where that is. So that's been pretty fun. I always base my fictional locations really near a real place so people can kind of put it on the map and know where it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I noticed while prowling around your website that you're a beach lover. So water is your happy place?
Yes. Yes, it is for sure.
So in The Summer House, Rollins, one of your characters, tells Lily that being out on the water is the best way to forget your troubles. And Kitty also mentions water's healing properties. Is this something you wanted to explore in this book, the healing properties of water and being close to the water?
I think this has happened with every book I've written. After I've finished with it, I have come back and seen so many threads and connections that apply to me that I didn't really realize when I was actually writing it. But yeah, I think for me, the water is a very healing place. And especially when I can be by myself, I really love my family and I really love being around people that I love, but being there by myself is, it just kind of lets it makes it so that I can kind of let my mind unspool a little bit. And yeah, I think during the writing of several books, we had some family health issues going on and things that just being in that really relaxing, beautiful place just kind of helped put a lot of things in perspective. And I feel like a lot of people, whether you live near the water or just like to read about it, I think people can kind of connect with that. The healing properties.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I definitely can.
Yes.
I think probably a lot of people can. So Lily Bishop finds a fresh start in Safe Harbor Village. Talk to us a bit about the theme of second chances and starting over from scratch. Was this something you set out to explore in this novel?
I think that's something that has popped up in several of my books, but I love the idea that it is never too late to change direction or to find love. I love writing about well-seasoned characters that find, new hopeful paths in their future. Lily obviously is a younger woman, but I just love the idea that you don't hit a marker in your life where that's as far as you can go, and wherever you are now is just where you're going to stay. I love the idea that you can make choices and continue to grow and change and find love, or leave a difficult situation, or find new passions. Yeah, I liked that for Lily. I liked seeing her be able to develop in ways that she didn't think that she could.
I enjoyed that as well. Martha Welsh says, I retired from a career which centered around the retired population. Thank you a million times over for writing them as they are and not some outdated stereotype or worse, a grossly exaggerated caricature.
Oh.
And then Sarah Hudson asked in a related question, what gave you the idea to use a retirement village as a setting?
Yeah. I had always, before I started publishing, I had a few book ideas that I knew I wanted to write, and that always starts with the setting. And one of those settings that I really wanted to explore was some sort of retirement community.
Mhm.
When I started, the very first little nugget of idea for this book was a woman who has to start her life over, and I didn't know what she was going to be leaving, what she was going to be trying to change, but I liked the idea of her kind of having to forge a new path forward. But I was getting stuck with just where she was going to be, what her living situation was going to be. And it just dawned on me one day. I thought, oh my goodness, I could have this retirement community that I've always wanted to write about, and have this younger woman have to start her life over in this community. So I kind of put two story ideas together. And my grandparents lived in not a retirement community, but it's like a condominium complex on Bon Secour Bay.
Mhm.
It's called Sailboat Bay. It's still there now. It was when I was in middle school, so it was a long time ago. They lived there, and all of their friends, people had moved there from all over the country, really. And to me, as a middle schooler, everybody was so old. I just thought it's like my grandparents and all their old friends. And now looking back, they were probably in their 50s, low 60s. So way, not old, not the old that I thought they were. And that's kind of the feel that I wanted Safe Harbor to have. My grandparents they went sailing, they had parties, they played cards together. I have a picture, gosh, it used to be sitting up here in my office, of my grandmother and some of the ladies that were her friends. They had gotten on their pontoon boat. There's a scene with the pontoon boat. They
Mhm.
had gone to this island and spread out a picnic on the island. And these ladies in their, you know, 60-year-old bathing suits, it is just gorgeous. And um, I just wanted that to be the setting. So I fictionalized it a little bit, but I kind of
Mhm.
wanted to pay a little bit of respect to those ladies that I grew up seeing at the beach.
I think that's fabulous, and I
Yeah.
love that scene with the pontoon boat and the lunch and
Yes.
all that. That was so much fun. And now those type of communities are everywhere.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
really
the
are.
active adult communities. It's
Yes,
like that's a big thing now,
I
and
know.
it's a fun place, a happening place, and certainly
Yeah,
not people who are just going somewhere to wither away or whatever. These
right.
are active, vital people
Yes,
having fun and enjoying life. And
yes.
and I love that, you have this setting for the book. So that
Yeah,
was a lot of fun.
it was fun to write.
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah also wanted to know from where came the inspiration for the characters of Rose and Lily.
Um, Lily, that none of my characters are based on people that I know. So Lily came first. I had the
Mhm.
idea of this young woman who has to start her life over, and she went through so many iterations. I mean, when I first started writing her, she had 5 children. I didn't know what her situation was gonna be, and I kept working, and I realized she's on her own. She can leave when she leaves, well, not when she leaves Worth, when he leaves her, she's totally on her own, and she can really have a fresh start. Um, and I wanted kind of to have a juxtaposition of that. I wanted to have somebody on the opposite end of the age spectrum. But then when I started thinking of who Rose could be, I thought there's got to be a lot of similarities between them. And the more I got to know Rose, the more I realized she is kind of like Lily. She's on her own. She's sort of familyless except for Rollins. But I really wanted her to have the connection with her family again later. So I kind of let her story go that way. But I really enjoy writing stories that have that the older and the younger together,
Mhm.
and how they can kind of learn from each other and teach each other. So I loved Rose's prickliness, and then how Lily kind of softens her over the course of that summer, and how Rose teaches Lily to have a little bit of a backbone. Well, Rose and all the ladies there to have
Right.
a backbone and to stand up for herself and to try things that she's afraid to do.
hmm I liked the character of Coach too. He was fun.
Yes, he was a lot of fun.
And I kept seeing, because he was Coach, I kept
Uh,
seeing that character, that Craig T. Nelson character from the TV show
oh,
Coach. I
yes,
kept seeing him
yes.
because I had that in
I
my
can see
head. So
that.
yeah, that
I
was
can
kind of
see
fun.
that.
Yeah. Okay, so Natalie Witherspoon asks, how long did it take you to write such a beautiful book?
Oh, thank you, Natalie. I will say probably about 6 months. My goal is usually to start writing when my kids go to school in August or September, and to finish it by the day school ends, like the day they come home from school for the summer. That's sort of my self-imposed deadline. This one, yeah, it fit in there. I usually, let's see, this one I probably didn't start till, I don't know, October, November, because I was doing edits on my previous book in that fall. Um, but yeah, I finished it up by about May and still had a couple of months of revisions. I have a couple of people that I send the book to read and give me some feedback before I send it to my editor. Um, but as my deadlines have gotten tighter, my writing has gotten quicker, um, which I mean, I guess is a good thing. You learn you can do it a little faster. But yeah, roughly 6 to 8 months is about what I'm
Right.
running. Yeah.
So are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, I always love that question. I'm in the middle. I think they've come up with the phrase for somebody who's right in the middle, like a plantser, maybe. Is
Yeah.
that what they're saying? I do a loose outline before I ever start writing, so that I know where the story's starting and kind of where we're headed. But I don't do scene by scene, chapter by chapter. But I think if I don't know where I'm headed, I won't get anywhere. I've done that a couple times, really, with story ideas that I wrote prior to publishing my first book. I would just kind of wander and see where the story took me, and I never finished. I was never able to finish
Right.
those ideas. So I have to have a pretty good idea, and at least, if not the actual final scene, I need to
hmm
have a pretty good sense of how it's going to wrap up before I start writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea for me too.
Really? Do you
Oh,
do that too?
I tend to go off on tangents. So
Yes.
it's not that I don't finish the book, it's that when I finish it, it's about this thick, and I need to
You
cut
have to
like
whittle it
two-thirds of it
down.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I get
So
it.
bad to go off on tangents. Okay, let's see. So Janet had several very nice things to say about the book,
Oh, thank you.
and she related that there were several things that she had experienced in her life that were reflected in the book, which she really enjoyed. For example, I know of a husband who left a note that he was leaving his wife and family and filing for divorce under a magnet on the fridge.
Oh
Um,
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. And she said that her mom lives in a retirement home that had a two-chair salon. And so
Oh,
much gossip was
wow.
shared and so many secrets were discussed in that place. Thanks
Oh,
for
I
such
love
a
that.
readable and relatable story. Sometimes I read stories that are good, but I cannot imagine happening in real life. Not so
Mhm.
with the summer house. I so look forward to more of your books. I think we
Oh,
all
that's
do.
so kind. Thank you so
So
much.
she didn't really have a question. She just
Yeah,
had a lot of nice things to say, and I
that's
wanted to
very
pass that
sweet.
along to you.
Well, thank you. I love that.
So Bobby Ulmer asks, she says, I love the cover of the summer house. I
Yeah,
did too. It's beautiful.
it is beautiful.
And love the book. How did you select the cover? Did you have input on the cover?
I do actually, and I don't know if all of my books have been published by the same publisher, so I
Mhm.
really don't know if this is how it is across the industry. But as we're kind of coming up with marketing and promotional materials and thinking about cover and title, my publisher asked me for any kind of photos that I've compiled during the writing of
Mhm.
the story. I usually throw them on Pinterest, or I'll bookmark
Right.
some Google photos, and they want to see all of those. They want to see book covers that I think have a similar feel.
Mhm.
So I send them all this information and a whole lot of stuff about the book, and then they come back with with a cover option, and then we kind of tweak it and go from there. This for the summer house, this wasn't the first cover option that they gave me, but it was close. They all were
Hmm.
very close. They kind of got, I knew I wanted part of the house. I wanted to see some of the house and see some of a little bit of the nature landscape around it.
Hmm.
So it just took a little bit of tweaking and we landed on the right one. I think it's really lovely.
It
And
is
I'm so
beautiful.
grateful that they let me have some input of kind of how I see it in my head.
Hmm. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Jackie Shepherd asks, which character do you relate most with?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I really relate to Lily discovering a something that she really enjoys later that she didn't know about.
Hmm.
This whole, I mean, her mom had the salon and she helped her mom with the salon when she was growing up, but she hadn't really had the ability to delve into that in the
Hmm.
way that she does at Safe Harbor. So I love seeing her really be able to get her hands dirty and throw herself into something that is just for her. That's not for her family, not for her mother-in-law, for her husband, but really just for her and discover
Hmm.
her own passions in that. I mean, I didn't start writing with the goal of writing fiction till I was in my 20s. So I didn't even know that was a thing that I could do when I was growing up. I just like to read a lot and write
Right.
in journals. That's where that came from. So I don't know, I really appreciated Lily being able to learn that passion and
Hmm.
that skill a little bit later. Um,
Right.
yeah, I like that.
So several people in the group had a version of this question. Ethel Eckenstein wanted to know what led you to write this particular story, and another version of this was what was the first kernel of inspiration. So I guess the way I'd like to frame it is: was there a moment when you just sort of had this first sort of kernel of an idea for the story, and from there the whole thing bloomed, or how does that work for you?
Usually it starts with the setting. I think,
Mhm.
and I think for this story, I mean, I could show you, I have a paper clipped group of pretty much index cards, scraps of paper, notebook sheets that I ripped out where I just have written down, family goes through whatever, just a little burst of, oh, what if I wrote about this? And for this story, it really was woman starting her life over. And
Mhm.
I didn't know at that point that it would be the end of a marriage. But the more I kind of played around with who Lily was and where sort of the growth I wanted her to see, I needed her to have something really disappointing, so really hard that she has to kind of put behind her and reach down and really pull up a lot of grit and
Mhm.
I don't know, spunk to kind of get herself in a better place. So and again, I had at first she had a bunch of children and then it was a job situation that she was leaving. I mean, I just went over all kinds of things. Um, but the idea of worth, and I came up with his name before I even really knew a lot of what he was going to be, Worth, and his mother, Mirtha. I felt like I could see Mirtha. I don't know, again, I don't know anybody like her, but she just was so clear to me that I thought Lily has to be able to move past
Mhm.
these people. So it was just kind of figuring out Lily's story and how she was going to be stronger than what she had left behind.
Right. That
Yeah.
mother-in-law was a piece of work.
She was a piece of work. Yes, she
Now,
was.
is
Yeah.
she based on anybody? And I know I think I heard you said that these
Yeah.
were all based on real people, and that's my story too.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. But but now, do you know anybody like Mirtha?
I know, I sometimes I don't base a character on a certain person, but stories that I've heard over the years
Right.
of different people,
Uh,
sure. I mean, I can think of how a woman like her could be real.
mhm.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, just really difficult. I mean, imagine her being your mother. I mean, what a
Mhm.
smothering force for a son or for a daughter-in-law. That would
Right.
be awful.
I think we've probably all run across women like that
Yeah.
somewhere in our past. I mean, people that are just so overbearing and so
Yes.
controlling,
Mhm.
and just really difficult for
Mhm.
everybody to deal with. But
Mhm.
you did a very good job writing her.
Well, thanks. I did not base her on any of the women in my family. I have lovely women in my family.
um, okay, so Jackie had a couple more questions, and I'm
Okay.
thankful for these several ladies had multiple questions, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
thankful
love
that
it.
they
That's
helped
great.
me come up with these. But she asked, what is a recent book you've read that you would recommend?
Oh, that's great. Well, I will tell you the book I'm reading right this moment. I'm rereading Karen White's Flight Patterns.
Hmm.
Um, I've read a lot of Karen's past, women's fiction before,
Right.
and they're just lovely and lyrical. And I don't know what I think it was the bees, the beekeeping. Some my grandfather, I mean, not my grandfather. I'm sorry, my father-in-law keeps bees, and we get all our honey from him. And something I might have just seen one of his empty jars in our kitchen, and I remembered her book Flight Patterns. So I'm picking that up right now, and I love it. I recently read Sarah Addison Allen's. Well, I love everything that she writes, but I reread her Lost Lake, which is
Hmm.
another magical realisms. Just little I love the way she weaves in just tiny touches of magic in her very real setting.
Hmm.
I used a little bit of that in the my book that's coming out in October, just a little bit, in that next story. Um, what else have I read? I read this book called this was a little outside of my usual genre. Nora Goes Off Script. It's
Hmm.
it's real big right now. It's like a
Right.
rom-com type
I've
story.
seen it, but I haven't read it. You enjoyed it?
I did. It was different than I thought it would be, and I feel like they're probably somebody's gonna make it into a movie. It just
Yeah.
begs to be in a movie. I was busy trying to figure out who the characters which actors would play the characters, which is always kind of fun. I don't usually read a lot of romance, but, it was fun. It was a fun, light, don't really have to tax my brain too much
Right.
kinda read. Yeah.
I have that on my list. It's not really in
Okay.
my TBR stack yet, but it's
Sure.
sort of in my list. Yeah, it's on my radar. I want to
It's
read
on your
that one.
radar, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Jackie also says, I'm three-quarters of the way in now, and
Okay.
I'm loving your narrator. Did you pick her or did your publisher?
Oh, the audio narrator.
Hmm.
I did not pick her, but she has been the same narrator for several of my books, Devin
Hmm.
O'Day, and she is so good. Um, I didn't have input. They chose
Hmm.
her, and I have heard repeated people come tell me, "I love your narrator. I love your
Hmm.
narrator." So I always try to give her a little plug when I can. She's really talented. She's been doing it for a long time. So yeah, I got lucky with her.
What was the most interesting thing you learned while researching this book?
Well, I did a lot of research on the shrimping industry. So
Hmm.
my well, he's not my uncle anymore. He was my uncle at one time was a shrimper in Mobile Bay, really in these same areas that I wrote this book about. And all the only thing I knew about shrimping from him was he lost part of his index finger from having to put his hand down in the hold where all the shrimp were, and a snake bit his finger. So
Oh,
all I knew about shrimping was that, but I wanted Rollins to have this job, not just a job, but like a family
hmm,
employment that that was very tied to the area, and that there was an expectation that he would stay with this, with this.
right.
So I put him in shrimping, and because all I knew was my uncle and his finger, I had to do a lot of research, and it was really interesting to learn about the types of nets they use and how they keep their
Hmm.
nets untangled, and the types of shrimp that grow along that area. I feel like I know the waters around Mobile so well,
Hmm.
but anytime I have to delve into research, I learn things that I didn't know, and it's a very rich, wild area in the water and the sea life that they
Right.
have there. Yeah, it's always fun to learn a little more.
So when you go to the beach, and I think I remember you're a beach lover. So when you go to the beach, do you go back to that area? Where do you go? Where's your favorite beach?
We My family goes to a little place called Perdido Key.
Hmm.
It's actually in Florida, but it is, I mean, somebody with a good arm could throw a football from the
Hmm.
Florida line to where we go to the beach. It's just barely in there. But if you look at a map where Perdido Key is, it's kind of just you go all the way west till the end of West Beach, and then you've got all of Mobile Bay that goes up north, and Bon Secour Bay is just right on the south. I mean, right on the eastern side of Mobile Bay. So it's all connected. It's basically all the same water. It just feeds out into each other. Mobile Bay, I had a lot of friends that grew up on the bay, and we, living in Mobile and going over the bay, that's what we call it. It takes like 45 minutes. We would do it multiple times a week. That's where Fairhope is. I'm sure a lot of your reading community knows where Fairhope is. So yeah, when we go to the beach, we make frequent trips to Fairhope to go to Page and Palette, the little bookstore down there. So I get down there as much as I can. I love it.
It sounds wonderful. I've never been to that area to the coast, but I
Oh,
think I
you
would
should
love to
make
go.
a visit. You
I
should.
should. I would love to, and I
Yes.
definitely would love to go to Fairhope.
Yeah.
We typically go to South Carolina beaches
Yeah.
because
It's a lot closer.
we're South Carolina people.
Right.
Sometimes Florida, sometimes the U.S. Virgin Islands, but I really, really would like to see
Yeah.
that part of the country. So
Well, I would
it's
like to
on my
see
list.
yours. I don't go, I don't go up to your beach areas up there. I know that's really lovely too. Maybe we should just switch sometime.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I understand that your sixth novel is coming out in October. Would you tell us a bit
Yes.
about that?
I will. I have it. I'll show you the cover. There it
Oh, that's
is. Cover of
beautiful.
it. Is it
I
backwards?
love.
I hope
Oh,
not. No. Okay.
no.
So A Place to Land is the story of two sisters, Violet and Trudy. And again, they're older women. They're in their 60s, upper 60s. They have lived together for 40 years. Violet is a bird watcher with the Audubon Society, and she owns an art shop with her sister Trudy. It's called Two Sisters Handmade Art. And
Oh,
Trudy doesn't speak. She writes, she communicates through little pieces of paper. And towards the beginning of the book, a boat rises to the surface of Little River that has been under the water for 40 years. And with it comes all these secrets and things that Trudy and Violet thought they had left very buried in the past. And so as these things come to light, and as the people in the town of Sugar Bend um, learn about what happened to this boat, the man who owned the boat, um, the sisters have to decide kind of what direction their future is going to take, and how
wow.
these secrets can change the relationships with people that they've made in this little town. So it
Oh,
has more mystery than what I usually
mhm,
write, but it was a good change, and a little bit of that magic, just small little
mhm.
touches. It was real fun to add in.
I can't wait to read it. That sounds
Oh,
like a lot of
thanks.
fun.
Yeah.
Now, Sugar Bend, is that a real place or is this a?
It is not a real place. I put it on, so it takes place both on the actual coast, like
Mhm,
on the beach coast. That's where Violet does her bird watching. She walks a route every few days to count how many birds she sees and their condition and their habitats and nests and all that. But then Sugar Bend is just a little bit up the coast on a river. I called it Little River, but I based it on Old River, which is where the place where we go to the beach. We're on Old
mhm.
River. So there's a few little towns that I imagine that it is similar to. There's Lillian and Josephine. If your readers know where those little places are, they're just tiny little river towns tucked away just a few miles from the Gulf. But I made it up. Sugar Bend is just fictional, so I could make it look exactly how I wanted it to look.
I am well in touch with that.
Yeah,
I love having a place that is yours to do with what you want, but it's very
right.
close to real places. It just makes things
Yes,
easier, doesn't
it
it?
does. It does. Yes.
Okay, so what are you working on now? What will be next after?
After A Place to Land,
Yes.
I have just barely started writing. I took last school year off of writing. My brain, I
Mhm,
just needed to give myself a little time to rejuvenate my creative well and
mhm,
creative juices. And I have started writing a story that again takes place near the water. I keep saying I'm going to write a book set right in Birmingham or somewhere else, but what happens is I start writing, at the end of the summer or in the fall, and really my head just wants to be down near the water, so I
mhm.
just write books set there. Um, So yeah, this takes place on a, well, actually, this one it starts off in the mountains of North Carolina, and then it also
Oh.
is down on a fictional island that is sort of similar to Dauphin Island, which is
Mhm.
down on just a little coastal island off the coast of Mobile. Um, and it is more of a father-daughter story. So it's a little bit different rather than a female
Mhm.
sort of person of wisdom. It's a father and a daughter story. So I'm just tiptoeing into it. I haven't gotten very
Wow.
far, but I'm excited about it.
Well, we will look forward to reading that when
Yeah.
you finish it. So, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think we should know?
Um, wow, I don't have no, I don't have anything specific. I just would love to, if anybody wants to read any of the other books, I would love to, if, I've got my email address on my website. People can ask me questions. I love connecting with readers. So
Okay.
yeah,
And
I'm an
we
open book.
will, this interview will be posted in the Lowcountry Book Club. And,
Yes.
if folks have additional questions, they may
Oh,
put them in the
sure.
comments and
Okay.
tag you or
Oh,
whatever.
great.
And
Yes,
if you get a chance
I will.
to chime in there, that would be great.
For sure.
And
I will.
we know you're busy. So if you can't, we understand. But if you
Oh
do get a
no, I
chance to
will.
do
I'll
that,
pop back in there.
okay. And okay. So tell us something about yourself that we might not guess.
That you might not guess. Gosh. Well, I don't know. This is just the first thing that came to my head. My husband is a runner.
Mhm.
Like a serious runner. He runs on mountain trails, and I mean, he just did a crazy, crazy run last weekend that was 100K, which is like 60 something miles.
Mm.
Crazy runner. Um, and I won't run unless somebody's chasing me. I walk for exercise, but I don't run. He started when we first got married. He was trying to get me to do some races, and I think I finally got him to understand that I'm just not ever going to be a runner.
Me
So
either.
yeah, that, yeah,
That's my line. I always say that when people talk about running, you should run or whatever, and I'm like, I don't run unless something's chasing me with
something's
big
chasing
teeth.
me. With
Yeah,
something
you
real
can't just
scary.
yeah, something very scary has
Yeah,
to be chasing me.
I'm right there with you.
Okay, so I guess that's all the questions that we have for you
Okay,
at the moment, but
at the moment, yes,
there may be some more that pop up in the group, and we look forward to seeing you there.
yes,
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure,
yes.
and we hope to talk to you again when your next book is out.
I would love to. Thank you. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Lauren. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.